Adding fractions with unlike denominators is not as simple as some other addition problems. There are steps we must take before the fractions can be added. However, by following a few steps in order, even tricky problems can be solved. Here in this picture we have fractions 1/4 and 3/8 being added together. Let's begin. We have 1/4 being added to 3/8. Unfortunately, we can't just add them up and be done, because our denominators are different. Remember that the denominator is the bottom number of a fraction. So, before we can add these two together, we'll need to find a common or shared denominator for both of these numbers. We can begin by writing multiples of 4, the denominator of our first fraction. We have 4, 8, 12. Let's stop there because we don't need to go any further. We're lucky with this problem because we see that 8 is a multiple of 4. If we turn our 4 to an 8, we will have common denominators and be able to add. How do we start with 4 and get 8? By multiplying by 2. We'll see more of this later, but what we do to the bottom, we have to do to the top. So we will multiply the top by 2 as well. Let's rewrite the problem down below. 1 times 2 is 2. 4 times 2 is 8. Plus 3/8. When adding fractions, you add the top numbers, the numerators. 2 plus 3 is 5. While the denominators stay the same, so we carry the 8 over here. Our answer is 5/8. Can we reduce? No, since neither share a factor.
There are 4 steps to solving problems like this. Here they are. Step 1. Find a common denominator. This will be our first step every time. Step 2. When we make changes, we live by this rule of algebraic problem solving. What we do to the bottom, we do to the top. It could also be stated, what we do to the top, we do to the bottom. Step 3. Add the fractions. Remember that this means adding the top numbers and leaving the bottom numbers as they are. Step 4. Reduce. We want our final answer in a nice simplified form. You can remember these 4 steps with the mnemonic or memory device, free water and rice. The beginning letter for each of these words comes from each of the steps. The F comes from find common denominators. The W is from our principle, what you do to the bottom, you do to the top. A is from add, and R is from reduce. Let's continue.
Now that last problem was an easy one. It gets a little trickier in this example, but our plan stays the same. We have 1/3 plus 2/5. We start by finding common denominators. Our first fraction is 1/3, so let's write out multiples of 3, this fraction's denominator. We have 3, 6, 9, 12, 15, 18. We'll stop there. Our other denominator, 5, has 5, 10, 15, and 20 as multiples. Do you see a common denominator? Hopefully you notice 15 in both lists. Now we begin the task of taking our fractions and making their denominators 15. If we start with 3, how do we get to 15? by multiplying by 5. What we do to the bottom, we do to the top. Let's rewrite it down below. 1 times 5 is 5 over our denominator of 15. The second fraction. How do we get from 5 to 15? By multiplying by 3. What we do to the bottom, we do to the top, which gives us 6 over 15. Now we add. 5 plus 6 is 11 over our denominator of 15. We just finished step 3 of adding the fractions. 5 fifteenths plus 6 fifteenths equals 11 fifteenths. Do you remember step 4? It is reduce. Can we reduce 11 fifteenths? No, we cannot, so we are done. I hope you're ready for an even tougher practice problem. Here it is. We have 2 fourths plus 2 sevenths. Our denominators are not the same, so we will be going through our progression. Do you remember our first step? Think of free water and rice. Free comes from find common denominators. Let's write out our multiples. For the first denominator, we have 4, 8, 12, 16. We can pause here and look for multiples of 7. Do you see any? No, so we continue. There's 20, 24, 28. I know from my times tables that 28 is a multiple of 7. 7 times what is 28? 4. Here's a trick. If we multiply our denominators together, we will always find a common denominator. Now, it may not be the smallest common denominator. Maybe we could have found an easier number to work with. However, that method of multiplying the denominators will always give you a number you could use. If you check our previous examples, you'll find that's what we did. The first fraction is 2 fourths. 4 times 7 is 28. Our principle from step 2, what we do to the bottom, we do to the top. 2 times 7 is 14. Our second fraction. 7 times 4 is 28. We were at 7 times 4 is 28. Say it with me. What we do to the bottom, we do to the top. That was 2 times 4 is 8. And we'll rewrite it below. 8 28ths. Which gives us 14 28ths plus 8 28ths. Giving us 22 28ths. Step 4 is reduce. Can we reduce? Yes, we can, since we have 2 even numbers. Let's try dividing it by 2. 22 divided by 2 is equal to 11. 28 divided by 2 is equal to 14. Can we reduce again? No. So we are finished with 11 14ths. Here is the first problem that we solved, written out step by step. You'll see each action we took. Now that we've been through some examples, it should be getting easier. You'll end by working out the following practice problems. So, pause the video and have fun putting your new knowledge to work.